hey look, it's my favorite people. How are we doing today? Welcome back. We got a real fun lesson in store today, so if you've never followed along with me before, come on, jump in. All we need today is crayons. Parents, anyone else watching, you could do it too. Don't you underestimate those crayons, alright? So, I am just so excited with how our videos have been going because I've been seeing your drawings and I'm getting amazing results all the way from Africa, all across the city, California, all around the world. Outer space, aliens showed me some of the work. It is amazing. So, it makes me feel great to know that we're doing this together and that, hey, all it takes is some crayons, right, in a couple minutes. So let's jump into today because we're going to be drawing a turtle. Now let's look at our supplies before we go into the turtle. We have green, brown, and black. Now I have a light green and a dark green and a light brown and a dark brown. If you only have one of each, that's fine. But those are all our colors we're going to need. Not much today, so pretty simple there. Let's go ahead and let's meet the main character of the day. This is my old friend. Met back at the old pond years ago. Hey Terry. Yep, there he is. Why don't you stand still there so we could show him some things about your proportions. We want to design you. So, beautiful, beautiful. Let's look at his shell first. When I'm looking at the shell, I'm thinking of it like a bowl. So it's gonna be like a sphere would be, but sliced in half, right? Now, the markings on the shell. This is what I want to show you right now so that as we get into it in the actual drawing, you know what to prepare for. Think of like a globe, or say a basketball that has the lines running along it. They curve along with the curve of the ball. So, in short, that's what we want to think about when we get into the shell. So, just a little bit so you can start to digest that before we get there. And then next you can see that the simple add-ons is we'll indicate the legs and the neck by just using sort of little sticks at first. So, without further ado, Terry, thank you, you've been more than generous and kind. You can go ahead and take off. Go have yourself some of that lettuce. All right, let's jump right into this. Let's grab ourselves that light crayon. Now, if you're at home, go ahead, draw lightly. I'm gonna draw a firmer so that you can make sure to see everything I'm doing. Okay, position your turtle onto the page so that it doesn't run off. So make sure give yourself a little imaginary go at it. Make sure that the shell's not gonna run way off or anything. So once you have that secured, let's go ahead and put the shell in. I'm going to start with the top, the big hump of the shell. And with this, I'd say just commit. Don't overthink it because every tortoise, I guarantee you, has a different shaped shell. There we go. Just a nice up and over. For the bottom, we're not going to do it exactly flat. We're going to do a slight curve that I would say is like a little smile, connecting one end to the other. Here we go. All right, perfect. Next, we're going to put the area where the legs and the head will come out from the shell. So we need to kind of carve out sort of like a little arch. So what I'm going to do, because the turtle is going to be coming at me at a quarter angle, I'm going to make the archway that we carve sort of turn away from me. So here we go. Just about like so. And again, this is another one of those elements that if not exactly like mine, totally fine. We just want that idea. All turtles are different. Okay, for smaller details, if you'd like, over here where it's perfect, this sort of where the curve meets this curve, you can kind of have it flare out a little. I feel like that starts to make a more organic turtle shell, right? So those are little details. Get into those how you will. Next, we're gonna put in those sticks I was talking about that will indicate where our legs and where the head will go. So with the head, it's kind of like this sort of pickle, right? It's a very cartoony turtle. So have fun with it, and you can have it the head face different directions if you like. You could play with those type of features, especially if you give it a second go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start from right within here. I'm gonna come up and just kind of stop right where I imagine the top of the head would end. Doesn't have to be perfect right now. That's why we're putting in these sketch lines. Everything we're doing right now, you'll cover over it as we go. Okay, so let's put in the legs. So for this, I'm gonna put in a dot right about here and a dot right about here. From this dot, I'm gonna do a little stick coming out and then going down, just like that. From this one, this leg's gonna be kind of pushing back a little bit, pushing the turtle forward. So I'm just gonna give a little kick back like that. Now the one back here, you'll just barely see it, sort of coming out from behind the shell. So we'll just indicate it. Great. That literally is what a stick figure turtle looks like. Let's go ahead and give this some volume. So with the legs, they're basically tubular, right? They're kind of like cylinder shaped, and so all I need to do is thicken them out. And I just imagine that this stick is sort of like the bone in the center. So I'll just thicken it out on each edge. Here we go. And then here. Now for the bottom, I just give it a little bit of that roundness that we gave to the shell. This will make it feel much more like he's sort of standing there, and standing there with having some volume and being a little bit 3D instead of too flat. Okay, so we have that, and I stopped the leg right about there because I know I'm gonna have the neck coming up. Let's do the other leg while we're at it before we go to the neck though. With this one, it's basically like an upside down U that follows the trajectory of this line. So let's go ahead and do this. Alright, and then I'm gonna have it come back and I'll round out the back there. Alright, perfect, perfect. And you already know that even if your leg's a little different than mine, yours is still perfect. Let's do the leg back here. With this, basically just gonna round out the bottom and then connect it right into there. There we go. We got a little turtle on the go. Let's put in the head so he knows where to go. Alright, so with this, remember I'm thinking kind of like a pickle, right? And so I'm just going to start elaborating onto this. Kind of finding that shape. I make the actual head, as opposed to the neck, sort of come out a little bit wider, but not much. So you can see how I'm kind of indicating that this will be the head, then the neck. And then I just sort of have it go and tuck into the shell. Alrighty. I'd say that next, we're gonna need to put some eyeballs on this turtle. So, this is where you could think about personality, right? I'm just gonna do classic, happy, bright-eyed turtle, like Terry normally is. But you could do mad eyes, you could do sad eyes, you could do big eyes, small eyes, any eyes, eye patch, whatever, no eyes, closed eyes, sleeping eyes, crying eyes. And I'm just gonna do 2 circles, like that. There we go. He's already looking out at that big old world from his shell, right? That's the cool thing about turtles, is that they kind of are that metaphor for having to always be at home. They're just carrying that shell wherever they go. You know, Terry's been tucked in a lot lately. Terry has not been wanting to come out of his shell. He is like, I don't know. It seems like that's what people need me to do, so I'm like, you're a turtle, dude. Like, they're not gonna catch anything from you. You're a reptile. You're a whole different thing. But anyways, that's between me and Terry. Let's go ahead and take our light green crayon that we've just been using, and we're just gonna color in everything that would be green in the end. When I do this, I'm gonna use pretty firm pressure, and if you haven't colored with me before, you'll know that I definitely use the edge of the crayon. I'm not using the point. And I'd go this far to say that by this point, if you've been following along, you've got some sort of dead ends of crayons and stuff. We call them leftolas. So if you got some leftolas, you know, which are just broken nubs and whatnot, take the skin off of them. You know, when we take the skin off, when we talk about that, we call those the artist crayons when they start peeling. Well, you know, Next step for an artist crayon is just to be a leftola. When they become a leftola, that's the perfect time, because that's when you can use the edge of it and really just color a whole bunch of space really quickly. So the idea is to get your crayon in a state where it colors consistently as you do this, and colors really as much space as you can while you do this. So definitely, you'll learn quickly that just using the tip of your crayon, it's gonna take you forever. And hey, I mean, well, we got forever. I still want to do more drawings before then. So, you know, it's all about that. It's all about that. But remember, the pause button is always there. Okay, so I've gotten my green in. Notice too that I've combined the neck and the legs. We'll scratch those back out in a moment. For now, put that green crayon down. You've earned it. Let's pick up the light brown. What I'm gonna do with this is just lightly color the shell. So I'm gonna use, again, the edge of it. You can see that my crayon is definitely blunt. It's not quite a leftola yet, but it's definitely a nice sort of artist crayon. Missing skin on half of it. That's another thing to think about too, is you can have two tips on your crayon, right? So with some of my crayons, I have them sharpened on one side, and I actually have the paper pulled off on the other side. And so that I can, when I need to, like I'm doing now, color a big area of paper, then I could just use that artist crayon tip where the paper's torn off and I could use the whole edge. Alright, so we've just about colored in that entire shell. Perfect. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna go in and really put that second touch with these colors and the final details. This is an easy one today, I told you. So, Grandma, Grandpa, if you're back there drawing a turtle, great job, great job. It's never too late to do anything. Never too late to do anything. So, let's go ahead and pick up our green crayon. This is the darker green. And I'm gonna go ahead and just start giving a nice outline to the turtle. Now this is the thing. You don't have to perfectly replicate all the edges that you have. You can give more character, do little dents, do a flat top of the head, give cheeks, you know, let your imagination drift. This is where you get to really kind of finalize. Now, as I come from the neck into there, I'm gonna fade out the line. So what I mean by that is I'm just sort of lightening the pressure as I go in towards this other leg. Let's go ahead and do over here. And I'm using very, very firm pressure right now. There we go. And you can see his little head's sort of turned off, looking that way, sort of startled by something along his walk, as Terry is prone to be. He's lived a long time. He's lived through 10 owners. So he was alive back when the pyramids were first being built, Terry. He's one of the longest living turtles on Earth. Now I'm just outlining this leg. Boom. Look at that. How quickly we're really making the statement to the viewer that, hey, this is where we want you to look. And hey, the thing is every time we draw this turtle, try to make it a little different. Do a big shell, do a small shell, do the patterns different, do the colors of the turtle different. Every variable here is something that you can explore as you, do your next iterations. Because I promise you, this will not be the last time you draw a turtle if you're into drawing. We're gonna put in some shading here. I'm gonna use the edge of my same green crayon I was using, and I'm just gonna cover space real quickly with it. It's gonna be this bottom half of the leg back here. So you can see using that edge of the crayon, it becomes fairly easy to cover very quickly. There we go, perfect. I'm gonna pretend that this is his chin. Her chin, his chin. In this case, it's Terry, so you know, him. I'm gonna go ahead and do this, boom. And then I'm gonna come down the neck, and I'm gonna sort of start coloring the entire neck. as I run in to where it would enter the shell. So it feels as though there's this little shadow running down, and there we go. Now it looks as if, you know, his head's got a nice bright light on it. This will make you look towards his head a little more than down over here. For this leg, I'm just gonna do a little bit of the green going on the edge. Here we go. And of course, you know, take your time with it if you need, and you can always come back after the lesson and enrich any of this anymore, touch it up to your heart's content. So just because I'm, you know, moving right along doesn't mean you necessarily have to move at that speed. We are done with the green. Let's put it down. Great job, great job. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna pick up that brown. We're about to get down on that shell, so this is why we met Terry earlier and he did his little modeling, right? We want to remember those lines and how they move with the curves of the shell. So the first one that I'll do is, let's remember that there's this arc right here, right? So what I'm going to do is move out from it into the shell, and I'm going to follow that. But once I get to right above the knee, I'm going to round. And the roundness right here is mimicking the bottom of the shell. So here we go. There we go. Now, this is something that when you get it just right, it really, really adds dimension to your drawing once you get that curve nailed. Now, practice makes perfect. So, you know, if it doesn't feel all the way right, I guarantee you by the next time you do it, it'll be even better. So I did one on top there. So now I'm going to divide downwards, and I'm going to sort of turn the shell into different plates. With these, again, I'm going to imagine this is round. So that means if I'm doing a line here, it'll follow this. If I'm coming in here, it's this. If I get to the middle, it's right about down the middle-ish. Over here it starts going this way. Here we go. And I'm just dividing them sort of as I see fit. It could be a whole variety of ways. When I do the next layer, I try not to just do a straight line right up, because that seems a little too planned. So what I'll do is kind of right in between the two. And here we go, here we go. Try to follow those angles the best you can, because the better you get those angles, the more round your turtle's gonna look in the end. So what we'll do now is we'll outline the edge of the shell and then put in the last little details, the rendering texture. When I outline the edge of the shell, I'm going to indent where the plates go into that deep shadow we just created. So here I go. Pressing real hard, little indent. Watch how each of these indents really gives Terry character, right? Rather than if it was just a perfect round top turtle. Go. And even down here, you can see that I section them out, right? Look how sort of nice and organic that looks, rather than the first loose, simple idea of the bowl we had started with. This is so often how art works. We start with the simplest shapes and we evolve it. Start with that light green crayon, and before you know it, you're looking at Terry the Turtle. All right, what I'm gonna do before we put this brown crayon down and move to the last step is I'm going to thicken each of these now. Each of these spaces between the plates on the shell, I'm going to give them a broader sort of canyon of shadow. This will help them pop out a little more just in the next step, and as we render the tiny little patterns on the actual plates. So there we go. It's kind of, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And one other thing that you'll tend to notice that can help it make a little more help make it look a little more natural is, see how these all end in corners? Cut them off. So see that? How I'll just sort of go around, and wherever there's a hard corner, I'll just sort of round it or angle it. And just that little touch goes a long way into making the turtle feel that much more believable and less like, you know, it was constructed out of simple shapes and ideas. So you can see right now how great that all turned out. It feels very natural, feels as if all the shell was not planned. Let's do the design on each individual piece of the shell. What I'm doing is just basically concentric squares that mimic the sort of plate that they're within. And I'm just gonna use the tip of the crayon and just kind of do these designs. They don't need to be perfect. See how loose I am with them? Now follow your curves still as you do them. And you can see that the best way to do it is not to overthink it. I'm just sort of in the flow. I'm not sitting here deliberating over everyone. I'm really just letting my crayon move before my brain moves, which a lot of times is just better for everyone. Better for everyone. So up here, a little top part, ba-bam. If you want that bonus detail, you could do like the bottom edges of some of these a little thicker. See that? It kind of gives it a feeling like they're lifting off of the plate and actually creating a little bit of a cast shadow. It's a little touch that can, hey, make this turtle feel even more 3D, which is pretty awesome accomplishment considering that, you know, it's a very cartoony turtle, right? So to make it feel that much more believable is really awesome. This area where the neck connects, I just sort of leave a little edge of the white there and then color towards the green until I run into it. If you have any space down here, you could always turn this into a little shell and color it, just in case there's a little shell showing underneath. Last thing I'll do is I'll take this brown. Last thing I'll do with this brown is, again, use that kind of sideways artist part of the crayon, and I'm going to start to shade upward. This is light. I'm not going to go too hard with this. This is just to give a little bit of shadow on the shell. You'll see that I'm being confident. I'm covering over everything I just did, and I'm not losing it. And I'm using, again, the side of the crayon. That's how I'm getting such a clean, even application. If you try to use the tip, don't say I didn't warn you if you get like a really hard mark on there. It's all about that crayon control. All about controlling anything, really, right? At the end of it all, it's all about control. Okay, we have arrived at the last step and color, or non-color, or all color, or who knows, black. Let's outline our eyes. Perfect. Perfect. Now, let's give him little pupils so he could be looking out at something. Terry's usually looking far away from where he's at. Never really has his mind in one place or where it should be. But hey, that's just how Terry is. We can't blame him. Okay, let's give Terry a smile. He's always smiling too. That's the weird thing about him. It's kind of weird. Okay, now we got a little smiley turtle. These last touches are exactly what they are, last touches. I'm going to accent some of the outlines I've already done, kind of as we did with the last details on the shell. So under the neck, I'm gonna start with a nice black and then have it loosen pressure until I let go. See how that goes from black, fades to the darker green, and then to green. I'm gonna do a little of that right where the chin is and fade out. Whole idea is to fade in and out of these movements, and it makes your drawing so much more incredibly dynamic. You can see that now it feels much more 3D. It feels almost beyond cartoon. It's almost frameable for a cartoon, which, you know, that's a great achievement, right? Okay, so I'm darkening in these areas because we just want this to be that shadowy area where he tucks into his shell. No one really knows what happens in there. What happens in the shell stays in the shell. Let's outline the bottom of the legs because these are cast in shadow. Nice black, boom, there we go. I'm gonna do this little bottom curve here and run up the side, fade out as you do. I'll go back to the back leg. This one's tucked all the way under the shell, so I give a lot of it the dark edge, you can see the trend is a lot of the bottom of things are getting the black outline. Let's do this bottom of the shell down here. Could do that if we need. I'll definitely do this bottom of the shell right here. All right, and then here's where, if you feel it needs it, you could do this last touch, which is within the canyons between the plates. So here we go, I'm gonna do like a little, and this is kind of soft with the black, just a little shadow here and there, and you can see how when they're placed nicely, namely underneath the plates, they really contribute a nice sense of dimension to the shell. There we go. All right, well, with that, it looks like we have drawn Terry the Turtle to completion, and he is looking at it from off camera, munching on his lettuce, and he's smiling as always. So I'm guessing we did okay. You know what? I want to see yours, so please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so we could do this again, right? And show your friends the turtle that you just made, and tell them, hey, challenge them rather, to subscribe to our channel and try one of these classes as well. You guys can have a little art battle back and forth, right? So let's keep the good times going. Hey, and until then, great job. Doodle on.